that question is, and if you don't have an answer to this, that's fine. It leaves an open question for us to further explore. If the machines were certified under a certain set of parameters, the follows then, the moment we change those parameters, you have now created an environment where they need to be recertified. Do you know whether or not that is part of the certification regimen?
Certification regimen does include a technical aspect of the certification. We focused more on the detail of the contract having to do with it, and so whether or not down to the weeds they were up on all of that and did all of that, I would not be able to say.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Pitch, in Miracle, we kind of use Dominion machine. Which one do they use here?
Here in Pima County, I believe we use ESOS.
Say again?
ES and S, that's what I believe we use here.
Ma'am, let me ask you a question. So, you mentioned conflict of interest. So, well, let's just say a former employee of ES and S or Dominion building equipment went to work for one of these two labs. Would you consider that a conflict of interest?
I would personally, yes.
You know, I have some friends in law enforcement, and they tell me when they have to calibrate their radar, speed radar, if it's not calibrated, they go on and cite somebody, and it gets questioned with the machines. Things not certified and calibrated, and therefore that evidence is inadmissible even in a speeding ticket. So once again, what we have here is the same type of principle. We have no equipment that's supposed to be certified, then even those results are uncertified.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, in your research on FARS 1644 2V, did you see anything in there that actually had any standards of enforcement?
We did. Brian, you want to take that?
So the best that we could find on that would be ARS 16-452C, which hold it to be a class 2 misdemeanor regarding anything during or regarding elections. But the point that I would like to bring up is that you basically have companies, laboratories that are doing government work without a legal contract. We don't allow that in any other, whether you're building a road or whether you're doing a gaming device or slot machines or stuff like that. So we are building roads and doing slot machines at a much higher standard than we are with our voice and our vote. So that was the only statute that I could find that we could find that would be a violation.
Maybe the
Maybe federal.
Elections Committee Chair? Go
I
ahead.
have a comment. Thank you, and thank you for looking at this and bringing this to our attention. And perusing 16-442, the rest of it, and it's permissive to the Secretary of State. It's not shall, it's may. Secretary of State may decertify if she finds that it's not accredited. It's not that she shall decertify. So here we have our current Secretary of State during the 2020 election had the opportunity to decertify these and chose not to. So if we're looking to change anything in this, I would think that we would want to make this prohibitive, that she can have that kind of discretion to ignore the statutes that she's to create criteria. If I'm reading this correctly, that she's to create criteria for a situation to decertify, but it says that she may decertify, and we obviously see that she chose not to do that. And that's where politics comes in. When we allow for the discretion that we've allowed, I would recommend it. Not only do we want to look at what kind of teeth do we put in, but you can't use teeth when it's permissive and discretionary. So we have to change a few things on this. And let me follow up with that is where do you recommend, if you wouldn't mind repeating your credentials, and then where would you tell us to go from here at this point? With that in mind, that it doesn't seem like she perhaps broke the law, that she had that discretion. What do you recommend that we do going from here?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Once again, my name is Rihanna Eldon, and I don't have any particular credentials, just in my life work. I've worked in escrow and title, so real estate contracts, and I've just studied this issue very in depth for close to a year now. In studying it, I would say that given the fact that HAVA Act was put in place and then Arizona chose to abide by that, those were things that were put in place when machines are used. It seems like what we don't have right now is an election by the people. It seems like what we have is a chain of custody that's broken, and when the ballots are inside a box that nobody can see into, that we don't know if these laboratories or, we have experts. We don't have an election by the people, we have an election by, that must be talked about in this way for hours upon hours by experts. The other point that I would like to make is in studying this, we had that top level due diligence that was supposed to be done at the federal level and obeyed at the state level. The only other layer that was in place was the Equipment Certification Advisory Committee. Now that committee, wonderful people, I've read all the minutes for those meetings, and they then at the state level look and say, are these machines going to be used? If there's a new build, a new software build, because that happens, right? And each new build, each new change has to be certified again. And this committee, in every single meeting, and I'm not blaming them, it's just a standard operating procedure. Who do they meet with? The machine manufacturers. And they ask them questions, and they get assurances that everything's fine, and that everything's certified. So I don't find that another level of due diligence for this most important critical infrastructure and for our votes. And I find that the ball was dropped there, intentionally or not. It doesn't seem to be that the process is set up to really protect the machines, the people, the votes, and the whole process. Thank you.
Is there any further questions?